رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is most gracious, most merciful. Now we come to the second juz of Surah Baqarah, and before we move, we make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all these things easy for us. I say and I request all my dear participants and audience, please repeat these supplications and dua with me. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وفوض أمري إلى الله والله بصير بالعباد. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح. And the supplication and dua for protection of our lives of Iman, as we have been taught by our Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bismillah alladhi la yadhurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ard wala fis sama' wa huwa as-sami'ul alim. And the third one, La ilaha illa anta subhanak inni kuntu minadh dhalimin. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us the supplication and dua. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-barath wal-junun wal-jizam wa min sayyi al-asqam. After these dua and supplications, we start today's talk and today's lecture. That after Bani Israel was charged with the big crimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has discussed and mentioned in the first juz, and it was mentioned that they were not qualified to be the leaders of humankind, to the leaders of mankind, so they are discharged from their status. And now there is a new nation, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed a new nation. As this nation, this ummah is being appointed, so they have got to have a new identity for them. A new identity, there is a new Qibla, and before the incident of changing of Qibla, I discuss briefly. It is better to mention that in the beginning, now the scholars, learned scholars, hold two opinions about it. Some of they say that from the very beginning, the Qibla for Muslims was suggested to be the Baytul Maqdas, the Aqsa Mosque. That was their first Qibla, the direction where they are supposed to face, and they were supposed to worship facing towards Masjid al-Aqsa, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Masjid al-Aqsa, Bayt al-Maqdas is also called. And being in Mecca, it was possible for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions that if they were in Mataf around the Kaaba, that it was possible that they can face the Kaaba and Masjid al-Aqsa similarly, parallelly, that they are facing towards Kaaba. For example, if a person is standing towards Ar-Rukn al-Yamin, Ar-Rukn al-Yamani, it's just because before Al-Hijr al-Aswad, the black stone, the corner, it's called Ar-Rukn al-Yamani. So if you are present there and you're facing towards Kaaba, then at the same time you're facing towards Masjid al-Aqsa also. So that was known as Istiqbal al-Qiblatain. That in the first time in uh, uh, in that very moment you are facing towards Kaaba and you are facing towards Masjid al-Aqsa. But when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated towards Medina, so that was not possible, because if you are facing Kaaba, then and the Masjid Aqsa is just behind you, and if you are facing towards Masjid Aqsa, then Kaaba is behind you. So that wasn't possible. Istiqbal Qiblatain was not possible at that time. So, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, according to first opinion, as I am elaborating it and discussing, and I'm trying to explain it, that according to first opinion held by learned scholars, that when Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam migrated towards Medina, so he faced towards Masjid al-Aqsa, as that was the first Qibla for Muslims. That was the original Qibla for Muslims from the very beginning. And up to 16 to 17 months, he was facing towards Masjid al-Aqsa and praying. And the Jews were really very, very happy, and the Jews got the opportunity to deceive the people. And these Muslims are just like a different cult between others. They are just like us, and with some minor differences. And just look, they are facing towards Al Qibla, Masjid Al Aqsa. So there are not big difference, and we don't need to be called Muslims, and Muslims are not other than Jews, and they are just like us. So the Jews were able to deceive many people living in Iraq, and they were all obviously not very much aware of the book and the knowledge of the book. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after 16th and 17th months, and that was the desire of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he ordered the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was offering his praise or zuhr praise in the masjid. You know that the Masjid Qiblatain, it's in Medina Munawwara, and within the praise and within the worship, he was asked to face, turn towards Baitullah Khana Kaaba. He was asked to face towards Kaaba, and he faced. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that سَيَقُولُ السُّفَهَاءُ مِنَ النَّاسِ, and the foolish one says. So the person who is unable to understand the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is called in the Quran that he is the most foolish person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the foolish among the people will say and will object on the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after that, most important thing I just want to mention, that in the verse 143, in the very beginning of the second part, in the second part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا, and thus we have made you a community, a nation, and the best of the nations, which is justly balanced. So the means wasata means very justly balanced nation and best of the nations. We have made you best of the nations. Why? So that you will be witness over the mankind, and the messenger will be a witness over you. So, and the verse goes on, but I have mentioned some part of the verse just to ponder upon it, just to think about it. And Allah SWT has said that the basic quality of this ummah, of this nation, of Muslim ummah, Muslim community, that is very, very justly balanced. And the parameters and criteria and yardstick, that is it balanced or not, is Quran and Sunnah. So following Quran and Sunnah, if this ummah is following in its individual capacity and the collective matters according to the Quran and Sunnah, that means that it is justly balanced and it has become a best of the nations. Second, I say that these are the qualities which are meant for this ummah, and what is the mission and what is the vision of that ummah. What is the basic purpose and objective of this collective objective of this ummah? Please just ponder upon it and just try to think about these verses, that Allah takuna shuhada nas. Why we have made you a balanced, a justly balanced community, and why we have made you a best of the nations, that you should become witnesses over mankind, and the messenger and the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be a witness over you. Now, to this part of this verse, there are two interpretations, and it's really very hard to go to the explanation. So I mention only one explanation, uh, which is more appropriate according to me, and we can leave the second the explanation for afterwards. That Allama Shabir Ahmed Usmani, in his famous Tafsir Usmani, he has mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam testified this religion, and he asked the more than 100,000 of his companions in the farewell Hajj, and he asked, "Ala hal ballaghtu?" Beware, have I delivered or not? So all of them, 100,000, more than 100,000 companions, they replied, Inna nashhad, that we testify, we bear witness, أنك بلغت الرسالة, that you have delivered the message, أديت الأمانة, that you have delivered the amana, ونصحت الأمة, وكشفت الغمة. So they bear witness. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Allahumma shad, Allahumma shad, Allahumma shad. Three times he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Oh Allah, be the witness, be the witness, be the witness that I have delivered the message. And then he said, Allah, فَلْيُبَلِّغُ الشَّاهِدُ الْغَائِبُ. Those who are present, now they are bound to deliver this message to those who are not present there. So this is the vision, and this is the mission, and this is the basic collective purpose and objective of this ummah, to deliver the message. Because after the finality of prophethood, there will be no prophet and there will be no messenger who will come. So in the very beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very much clear that this is your vision. So now if you look in ourselves, what is an ambitious career for a young person, a person who is taking admission in a university, or a person who like to be a very successful doctor, a person who want to be a very successful engineer, a person who wants to be a successful businessman, a person who wants to be a successful architect. That's all about it. So this is a very small objective, and these are not objective of life. These are only tools to fulfill the necessities of life, or just to attain some kind of luxuries of life. It cannot be the basic purpose of a life. The basic purpose of life is obedience to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to deliver and to become an example, and to lead the humankind for the uh, for the eternal peace and for the eternal success in the life hereafter. This is the vision of Ummah Muslimah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned this, and now we move forward. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, we can discuss many commandments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us two type of things. As we read this second part of Surah Baqarah, second part of Quran, which is also discussing Surah Baqarah, we can have two kind of commandments or two kind of verses. The verses which describe the basic qualities of Ummah Muslim, and the verses which lays down the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are two different things. The traits, qualities which are suggested for this Ummah Muslimah at individual level, and at the macro level and the collective level, traits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked. And second, some of commandments, as I will mention. So in verse 153, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, it's 152, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ, that, so remember me, I will remember you. So what is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So making tasbih, making istighfar, it is also remembrance. Reading Durood Sharif, it is also remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Reciting Quran, it's also a kind of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the, but the crux of the matter, but the crux of the matter of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that whenever there is a hukum, and whereas Allah's commandments is towards you, it's you both these commandments and you're able to fulfill for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, if you enter your washroom, what you're supposed to do, you cannot recite Quran, you cannot not make istighfar, you cannot make tasbih, you cannot read subhanallah walhamdulillah with this. Now, as the moment you entered the washroom, you remembered the supplication before entering to the washroom, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min khubuthi wal khaba'ith. So this is the remembrance that at that time what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to do. And when you enter to the washroom, you know that you cannot recite, you cannot say zikr with your tongue, and what you are supposed to do, how you are supposed to sit, how you are supposed to do purity, and how you are supposed to do ablution, and all these commandments. You remember all these commandments at that particular time. So this is the zikr of that time. And when you are sitting or eating something, you know the way of sunnah, you know the supplication, you do know the dua, how to begin it, you know the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that time, so that is the zikr, and you go going out of your house and you remember that what Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us the dua, Bismillahi tawakkaltu alallahi la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. You make this dua. This is the zikr of that time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, Quruni azkurkum, that in each and every moment of your life you have to remember me, and if you remember me, I will remember you. Washkuruli, and be grateful to me, and wala takfurun, and do not be ungrateful to me. That was the two traits, two qualities. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah, inna Allaha ma'as-sabirin. This is the verse number 153. O you who believe, seek help through patience and the prayer. So the patience, as and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that the patience, that there are three components of patience which is required from a believer. First thing, patience, it does not mean that if something unpleasant happens to you and you say, okay, that's all. So this is a very limited concept of patience. So what is the right concept of patience? I'm just trying to elaborate it. There are three components of patience which is being asked or which is being suggested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Restraining oneself from what the Sharia has declared to be illegal or impermissible, haram. Refraining from committing any sin or refraining from committing anything which is haram according to Sharia. So, according to Sharia, as per commandments of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. This is the first component. Second component, forcing oneself to be regular in the observance of the different forms of worship and to be steadfast in obeying the commandments of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and Holy Prophet, that all farais and that all wajibat, all matters which are obligatory for a Muslim to perform or to observe, he makes sure that he does not leave anything which is obligatory. This is the second component of sabr and second component of patience. And third thing, to endure all kinds of trouble and pain, in other words, to understand clearly and to believe that it is the will of Allah SWT to make one suffer, and to hope that one shall receive a reward for the suffering. Because at any time you want to fulfill the commandments of Allah SWT, so there is a trouble, so there is a hurdle first from your nafs. Our nafs becomes our desires. These are the first hurdles. The desires are towards one direction, and the commandments of Allah SWT many of the time are against human desires. So suffering of our desires to suffering of our desires to and the second thing, whenever we try to observe anything that a community or friends or families or whatever, so market trends and market practices, these does not allow to do so. This is also similar, that you the the retaliation from your community, you uh, you, you be patient at that time, and you steadfast against all these retaliation from society, from friends, from families, and all these things, and you be patient. So this is the third component of sabr. So whosoever he perform three things. I repeat, one thing, restraining oneself from what the Sharia has declared to be illegal. You do not commit anything haram. Second, you do not leave which Allah SWT has made fard and wajib for you. So you do not leave anything further than wajib. It is the second component, is the second kind of patience which is required from you. And the third thing, that there is a retaliation from your nafs, there is a retaliation from a community, there is a retaliation from disbelievers, there is a retaliation from hypocrites, there is a retaliation, and to be steadfast against these kind of retaliations is the patience required from a believer. And when we do this sabr, what will be the the reward that Allah SWT says, Inna Allah ma'as sabirin. So the sabr and salah, Inna Allah ma'as sabirin, that Allah SWT will be with the person who is patient, that Allah SWT's nusrat, Allah SWT's uh, guidance will be for those who are patient. And this was verse number 153 and 154. وَلَا تَقُولِ مَن يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ was the highest level of patience. Then you fight in the way of Allah SWT, and you got martyred in the way of Allah SWT. Therefore, Allah SWT has mentioned the ranks and merits of shuhada, the martyrs in the way of Allah SWT. وَلَا تَقُولِ مَن يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ, and do not say for the ones who are slain, who have been martyred in the way of Allah SWT, that they are dead. No, they are alive, but you do not perceive. You do not have the right kind of perception how they can be alive. Now we come to the verse number 155. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And surely we will test you. We will test you with something of the fear. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ, with something of fear. A fear is of two kinds. As I mentioned, you fear more than your community, than Allah SWT, or you more fear that Allah SWT than your community. So there is a fear versus fear, and fear of Allah SWT versus fear of community, fear of friends, fear of job, of economic fear. There is a tussle between two fears. So be shaykh bil khawf, that we will test you with something of fear and hunger, والجوع والنقص من الأموال, and the loss of wealth, والأنفس and lives, and loss of lives, والثمرات and the loss of fruits, وبشر الصابرين, but good tidings to the patients, good tidings, glad tidings unto the patient. And who are the patient? الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Those when strikes them a misfortune, who strikes them a disaster, they say, indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. So these are some basic messages Allah SWT has given us in the Surah Baqarah in the beginning. And now we move further. Allah SWT has, after that was discussed, the changing of Qibla, and many objections were raised by Jews and by pagans and all these tribes, and Allah SWT is answering. After answering all these objections, then we come to the verse 177. Allah SWT has summarized very briefly all these topics, and Allah SWT has said that لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Allah SWT says that righteous is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ, that it is not the whole guidance, it is not the all virtue, it is not all the righteousness that you face that you turn towards that you turn your faces towards east or west. But the real virtue, what is the real virtue? Not Allah said that it has got its weight, it has got its significance, a qibla, direction towards the qibla, Doing or facing towards the Qibla has got its significance, but it is not the complete deen. So, what can be the complete deen? Allah has mentioned, but virtue is of him who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ. That the virtue and righteousness is for the person who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, and the last day, وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ, and the angels, وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ, and the book and the messengers. And first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned for righteousness is the faith. Now, please note it, note it down. Now, please note it down that any good deed which does not have got the faith and iman and the belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to Quran, it does not qualify to be called a righteous person or righteous deed. Without belief, any good deed is not acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now it says that, and afterwards, after declaring that this person is the righteous person who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all these things, and to spend your substance out of love for him. Atal mala ala hubbihi, that he is able to give of his substance or to spend in the in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to whom he should spend unto a substance outlay for your kin, for your relatives, Walyatama, for orphans, for the needy, for the wayfarer, for those who ask, and for the ransom of slaves, to be steadfast in praise, Aqam Asrat Zakah, and practice regularly charity, to fulfill the contracts which we have made, and to be firm and patient in pain, suffering, and adversity, and throughout all periods of panic. Such are the people of truth, the Allah fearing. And Allah SWT has said, as I mentioned, and I read once again, that Allah SWT's love is so much that He is ready to spend His money in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who are near Him, to near relatives and orphans and the needy and the wayfarer and the beggars, and for redeeming necks, and establish prayer, and give the writ, and is of the performance of the covenant, and they fulfill their promise when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty and hardship and during battle, these are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are the rich. Ulaika humus sadiqun. And the Quran says these are real true in the claims. When a person claims to be the true person, and Allah SWT has said that these are the person who are true in their claims to be the right Muslims. And then Allah SWT has mentioned commandments regarding qisas, siyah, fasting of Ramadan, nights of Ramadan, some customs of Jahiliyyah has been mentioned, commandments regarding Hajj and Umrah which has been mentioned. And then Allah SWT has mentioned in the verse 208, Ya ayyuhallazina adkhulu fis silmi kaffa, that oh you believe, you are need to enter into the Islam without any condition, fulfill Islam, whole Iman and whole Islam, not some parts of Islam and some parts of Kufr. And Allah has mentioned commandments, and after the commandments of regarding jihad, in fact, spending, marriage, days of impurity of women, divorce, uh, iddat, and all these things have been mentioned in this surah. And at the end, the incident of Talut and Jalut has been mentioned, and which I will discuss tomorrow as we are short of time. The time has expired. And at the end, as some of our brothers, brother Asad Tahir has mentioned, so please clarify one thing. So it was, as I said that in the previous lecture yesterday, that what will be the or what should be a relationship of a Muslim with non-Muslims. So we can have five kind of relationship with non-Muslims. Okay, just listen carefully. Briefly, I will explain it. There are five types of relationship we can have with non-Muslims, and to every type there is a different commandment. And to every type there is a different commandment. For example, doing justice with non-Muslims is farz wajib, obligatory. Doing injustice with non-Muslims, it is haram, sinful. There are two types: being justice, doing justice with them, being just with them, and doing justice with non-Muslims. It is wajib, it is farz, it is obligatory. And doing injustice to non-Muslims, although they are non-Muslims, but we cannot be unjust to the non-Muslims. So it is haram to be unjust with non-Muslims. So we can have financial dealings with the non-Muslims according to the parameters and guidelines we have been prescribed by Sharia. According within these limits and according to these guidelines prescribed by Sharia, so we can have financial dealings with non-Muslims. It is allowed. It is jaiz. Okay, it's jaiz. It's mubah. It's allowed. So this is the third kind. And having some social activities with non-Muslims. For example, they are our neighbors. They invite us or we invite them. So going to them if he is some kind of he's suffering from a fever, he is suffering from a disease, he needs my help, I help him, or I need a help from my non-Muslim neighbor, so I call him. So this is also mubah. Allah SWT has allowed it. Now the fifth type, that this is the you maintain a very deep relationship. So deep relationship means that you develop a love for them and you get impressed by their actions, you get impressed by their religious customs, or you become a part of the religious customs. So such type of relationship to the non-Muslims is not allowed, it's haram. And when I was mentioning that what was the uh, reasons of decline of Bani Israel, one of them, they were impressed by the customs, by the civilization, by the ways which are against their own religion. Then our religion, that I mentioned, that they after Moses went to the mountain Tur, they started worshipping calf, a baby cow, and the Samri magician, he managed it, all these things, and the details will come inshallah in Surah Taha also. So this is haram. So this kind of relationship with non-Muslims, that we get impressed from their religious customs, from their religious beliefs, from their way of life, and we start adopting their way of life. Rather, we were supposed to deliver a way of life, a way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to them. We were supposed to do that. That instead of what we were supposed to do, we are becoming a victim of inferiority complex. So this is not allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's all for today's. Inshallah, we will be discussing a very important topic of riba, interest, tomorrow, which is mentioned in Surah Baqarah, and we will be discussing Surah Al Imran. And tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. And that's for today. Subhanakallah bihamdika, nashhadu la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun alal mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.